big game on the schedule for me, on the schedule for you, is Ohio State at Oregon. I mentioned tonight, Ohio State thumped Iowa. Beat them like they stole something, okay? 7-0 at halftime, and then Ohio State went off, right? Just decided, no, we've had enough. We're going to go start scoring the ball now. You got Jeremiah Smith, you got Emeka Egbuka, you got 5 TDs for Will Howard in a game where he didn't, once again, look great. And that's the scary thing about Ohio State right now. They look so not sharp, and yet they are shredding teams. They are shredding teams, being rough. But there are things that I think you can glean from what Ohio State has done so far this year that makes them different than years past, okay? The first one I think you got to point to is the play calling is just that much better. It's not shade to Ryan Day. It is to say, I'm sure Ryan Day would be calling this sort of a play or these sorts of plays if he wasn't head coach, like he did when Urban was head coach. Okay, so he went to go get a guy that he knows the offense like he knows it and wants to operate. And Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly also coming from not having to be head coach, just calling plays. So you split those duties up between two dudes that know nothing but winning for the most part. Ryan Day is the head coach. Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator, and it is moving. What is so telling is up until this week, you hadn't really seen anything out of Ohio State's playbook. Like they had 40% installed. That's what they were moving off of, which means that you're just running base because you're so talented that you ain't got to do much else. You can save your good stuff for when you absolutely positively need it. So the offensive line play is also good. Seth McLaughlin, who I nicknamed Snaps, ain't really had that problem this year, has given them a legitimate leader in their blocking scheme and pass pro. They look like they know what they are absolutely doing on the offensive line, and that was the thing that was really getting underneath Ohio State's skin. They couldn't protect long enough to throw to anybody other than Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, and they couldn't run the ball. Not really. They had to lean really hard on the defense. So they bolstered the offensive line with Seth McLaughlin. They bolstered the run game with Quinshon Judkins and Will Howard. And then they asked Chip Kelly, what do you want to do? So they play 4 wide receivers for the most part, really narrowing down that rotation. It includes the true freshman phenomenon that is Jeremiah Smith, but the leader in that room is Emeka Egbuka. And then you get to couple that with a complementary defense that is given to stops and takeaways. Jim Knowles' defense the last 2 years has been elite. I think he should be on everybody's list for the Broyles Award if they get this W against Oregon next week. So you know that on both sides of the ball, the coordinators know what they're doing, and the player personnel knows what they're doing. You also look at what they're able to do horizontally. Last year, it felt like what they were doing side to side just wasn't working. Bubble screens and whatnot just weren't working for them. This year, when they go east and west, it feels like it's because they got a step and they're going to get to the edge quicker than the defense and they're going to get upfield. Some of that is a product of schemes. Some of that is just a product of I'm faster than you. And when you're faster than people, it doesn't really matter which direction you are running. You'll just get to the point, you'll get to the angle quicker than they are, and there you go. Ohio State ran for 203 yards against Iowa today. It's 5.1 yards per carry. Iowa's defense had allowed just 62 yards rushing per game, 2.4 yards per carry. And Ohio State could do anything they wanted on the ground. That is a dominant performance from an Ohio State team that isn't yet reached its final form. That is the Ohio State that is going to be running toward Oregon next Saturday. Really big game, night game. I'm going to enjoy it because Autzen is a really difficult place to play. Thing about Oregon this year, though, is they have not yet looked like the team that we thought they would look like going into the season. I think by virtue of the losses from Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, they're going to be one of those top 3, top 4 teams in everybody's ranking next week, including mine. However, when you see that they nearly got vandalized by the Idaho Vandals at Autzen, and you saw Boise State threaten them to the inch of their life, to say nothing of Ashton Genty going for 192 over their dead body, it's difficult to say that Oregon is great. Beating UCLA doesn't tell us anything. Beating Michigan State doesn't tell us anything. Okay? This game against Ohio State, I think this game could be for the number 1 ranking on October 13th. Because Texas is, let's say they pants Oklahoma. It would be a top 15, top 20, top 25 Oklahoma. It would not be an undefeated Oklahoma. Meanwhile, Ohio State and or Oregon would be able to claim the best win of anybody so far this year. When you think about Alabama losing to Vanderbilt, Alabama's Georgia win doesn't mean much anymore. Georgia doesn't have a really great win, right? Texas' great win is Michigan. Michigan is cheeks now. So we're talking about Ohio State and Oregon, two Big Ten teams, could also leave this thing depending on what happens with Oklahoma and Texas. Number 1, number 2, maybe? It's on there, right? But for that to happen, Oregon's going to have to be able to move the ball pretty quickly, pretty seamlessly, and get off to a fast start, something they were able to do against Michigan State. But I'm not sure how they're going to fare against an elite defense. Last week, or I should say Friday night last week, Dillon Gabriel threw 2 interceptions in the same game for the first time since 2022 against Baylor. That does not bode well for you, Will Stein, offensive coordinator. Jordan James rushing for 166 on 24 carries. Oh, yeah, that's great. Noah Whittington getting some work? Yes. Tez Johnson still your go-to guy? Yeah. You still got Trayshawn Holden out there? Absolutely. Evan Stewart still there? Yes. All of that is true. Jordan Burge coming off the edge? Yes. But now you got like for like. So if Ohio State can run on you like they were running on Iowa, cancel Christmas. It's done. It's done. You better be able to stop Travion Henderson. You better be able to stop Quinshon Judkins. And you better make Will Howard throw for 3 bills to beat you. Because that's not something they want to do at Ohio State. They do not want to have Will Howard throwing the ball all over the yard. They want to have Will Howard taking shots. You want him to go deep to Emeka Ibuka, go deep to Jeremiah Smith, go deep to Carnell Tate, go deep to Brandon Ennis. You do not want that man to have to throw the ball 40 times. That ain't going to help you. So that's what I would try to do if I'm Tosh LaPoy at Oregon. Other thing I would try to do if I'm Ohio State is send 5. I'm going to, as many times as I can, I'm going to send one more than they can block and see if I can speed Dillon Gabriel up. Because if I can speed Dillon Gabriel up, he's going to throw me the football. He's going to throw me the football because I'm elite at corner, Denzel Burke and Igbinosun. I'm elite at safety. Oh, my God. I'm decent to good at linebacker, and I'm elite on the defensive line. I'm going to find a way to get takeaways. All I have to do is catch this dude looking at something he shouldn't or have him late. You can do that if you're Jim Knowles. You have that in your bag, and you have the personnel to do that. We saw Will Howard, though, also will demonstrate that he wants to throw you the football. Like Sebastian Castro was out here going, yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Just this afternoon. That's the way that I look at Ohio State, Oregon, and how I think it's going to play out. Again, I think the winner of that game moves to number 1. I think that's good for the Big Ten. Not sure that it's great for the SEC, and I think it's great for the Big 12. It's great for the ACC, especially if you think that Clemson is going to end up in the ACC championship game with their only loss coming to Georgia. But now, once again, that loss to Georgia doesn't look good anymore because of the loss to Alabama. Alabama's lost to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's lost to Missouri. Missouri's lost to A&M. A&M's lost to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's lost to Northern Illinois. Okay? That's how we're doing the math on this one. Who's got the better win? We can make an argument about that, but in college football, one of the things that we have decided is we care more about who your losses are, not who you beat. We don't. We care, if we care that you are undefeated, more Group of 5 programs would get into the college football playoff national championship game, but they don't. We care about who you lost to. Do we think it was a fair fight? Do we like how you purported yourself if you're Alabama, Georgia playing the SEC championship game? So much so they will put you back in the college football playoff. That's what we care about. So if you hear me talking about people's losses, it's because that is what the public will allow. You. Not me, you. And not for nothing, don't nobody want to see Cincinnati play Alabama in the college football playoff anymore. We saw it once. We saw how it went. It's fine. I think there's more to say about what the Group of 5 can hope for in a college football playoff setting. We'll get to Boise State here in a little bit. But I did want to touch on Ohio State, Oregon just a little bit before we get to where we're going. Okay?